Ms. Keokam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Seeing that it's getting very close to the end of the day, and everyone must really want to retire by now for the day. So what I've done is I've tried to pick out some interesting photographs or pictures so that you can relax and see these pictures, and I will be as brief as possible. I'm not going to actually speak about the paper itself, but I'm just going to give you an overview of what the paper is about so that you can actually read it if you want to know more detail about it. The paper is actually about the complex relationships between the ways and means of living in peace and harmony, according to the topic of the conference, and between the different kinds of rights and entitlements. It actually begins from the premise that access to basic human needs is essential for guaranteeing the rights to livelihoods of the poor, rather than availability. So in other words, although you may have resources available, it doesn't necessarily guarantee a good livelihood. So good quality livelihoods actually depends on accessibility of the poor. To explain this in more detail, the paper actually focuses on the issues of access to seeds and plant genetic resources. The argument of the paper is that the livelihoods of the poor and the marginalized groups of population, particularly their food security, depends on access to seeds and plant genetic resources. But such access is legally sanctioned by the intellectual property rights regimes, which is codified at the international level, and the multilateral agreements, both inside and outside of the World Trade Organization. And it is implemented and enforced at the national levels. The paper argues that this can actually exert strong influence on institutional landscapes in which access to resources, in other words, the entitlement of the poor, is actually shaped and mediated. While on the other hand, the corporate or the commercial seed systems, which is developed through expensive modern plant breeding research, actually encroaches and puts increasing pressures on the traditional farmer system, farmer seed system in other words. And you can find that in many developing countries. So in this sense, big corporations, both domestic and multinationals, have incentives as well as interests to utilize and strengthen the enforcement of the intellectual property rights regimes to advance and to protect their rights over such natural resources, seeds and plant varieties. And as a result of that, the access, entitlements of the poor can be constrained in several ways. The intellectual property regimes actually favor exclusive individual property rights over community rights, despite the fact that community rights are more suitable for ensuring collective action within the community and thereby actually empowering the poor to cope with economic and environmental risks and uncertainties, which is inherent in the agricultural sector. Favoring individual rights actually will result in the poor being more likely to find themselves amidst unpleasant situations of legal entanglements, usually due to the inevitable problems of gender flows and the cross-pollination of crops in the fields, and the following claims that counterclaims of who own the varieties that they grow. But at the same time, in light of the emerging global trends such as climate change, deteriorating carrying capacity of the environment, and increasing world population and urbanization, and of course together with potential negative impact and demanding pressures on the agricultural sector, research and development in seeds and plant varieties is still more important than ever before. So the question of access and plant varieties for the poor becomes a question of access to knowledge and innovation. And at the same time, for the research and development entrepreneurs, the question of access to knowledge and innovation depends on the biodiversity and the genetic material that already exists and has actually existed for a long time. Okay, as farmers have their rights to save, to breed, and to exchange seeds to gain access to the varieties of seeds in open sources. And probably most importantly for the farmers is for them to produce and to live in a community and in the world where seeds and biodiversity are regarded as commons. In this regard, what we need, as the paper argues, is the right kind of state intervention and policies. If the balance is to be achieved among availability of new knowledge and innovation, between agricultural biodiversity and entitlement of the poor to access to seed and plant genetic resources. So the future of the world agriculture and human food systems will depend on whether the international community can find such a balance and can find it in time. So may I end there, and I'll leave you to read the details within the papers, and if you have any questions, do that. Thank you.
Thank you.